What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are back with the very first monthly Q&A of 2021. I am very excited to get stuck into this one as there are some very good questions in here. I am going to be keeping these ones a little bit shorter moving forward.
Cap.
Usually these end up being like 20 to 30 minutes long, and so I am going to try and just cut those down a little bit, maybe between the 10 and 15 minute mark or something like that. So I will be answering a few less questions, but I'm going to continue to answer them as in depth as I can. So hopefully you guys enjoy both the questions and the answers. Now, if you do want me to answer your very own question, then the best way to do that is actually to join the Discord, which there will be a link down in the description. In every episode I am going to sort of focus on the Discord questions, but I will throw in a few YouTube questions as well. So if you want your questions to be answered, be sure to join the Discord, and it is just a great place to chat with not only me but the rest of my subscribers as well. So like I said, the link will be down in the description. Now, the other thing is, if you do ask a question and it doesn't get answered, then be sure to stop by in the next stream, as I'm always open to answer any questions on a live stream, and it's generally a little bit better to actually answer them there because I can sort of just do it and have an actual conversation rather than just, giving a straight answer and then moving on. So if I didn't get around to your question, then be sure to stop by on the next stream. But with all of that out of the way, guys, we're going to get stuck right into the questions. Coming in with a very juicy question, we have that boy who says, what are your thoughts on a BR Star Wars game? Now, this is a very touchy subject around the community. A lot of people are actually really against that, because BRs are kind of a very, even though they're really big genre, they are also very niche, that you either love them or you hate them. So it has been sort of thrown around there a little bit, and understandably a lot of people are really keen and a lot of people are just completely against it. So it is a little bit of a touchy subject. Now, for me personally, I would do anything for a Star Wars BR game. I'm a huge fan of Warzone, and I used to play a lot of games like PUBG and H1Z1 and stuff like that. So I'm a big fan of Battle Royales. I think they bring so much intensity to just, your regular multiplayer gaming, and I think just mixing that with, Star Wars in general, that is going to be an awesome thing to mix. So I definitely think that, with how big games like Warzone and Fortnite and stuff like that are, that it is, maybe a possibility. I don't know if it's, going to be up there on the priority list of any of these companies. However, with that being said, now that the license seems to be opening up, it is probably a higher chance than it was, like 6 months ago. So I wouldn't say no to it, but I'm also not sort of, expecting it to come. I don't think it's going to be coming anytime soon, if at all. So I'm not going to get my hopes up, but it is something I would definitely love to see. I've heard a lot of people say that it would be, it kind of break immersion if you had a bunch of Star Wars characters fighting off against each other, but you could actually do it in the same way that Apex Legends works, where it's actually like a real tournament within the canon of Apex Legends, which is actually just in the Titanfall universe. The Battle Royale is actually like a tournament in that universe, so it's kind of like a real thing they drop into the map, and then the winner actually, wins the tournament. So you could do a similar thing with Star Wars. We've seen things like, the sort of Colosseum on Geonosis in episode 2, and then even in Jedi Fallen Order, there's that sort of arena where, as Cal, you have to fight all those bugs and get out of there. So you could sort of do it in that same style, where it's a big, a big event within Star Wars, and you could have like a crowd around the whole map or something like that, and you could just have a bunch of like bounty hunters or, just regular sort of warriors fighting off against each other, and you could have a lot of awesome customization and stuff like that. And I just think that, adding that to the Star Wars universe would be pretty awesome, and it doesn't really need to mess with canon or the immersion or anything like that. So I think it would be pretty awesome to see, but again, I'm not going to get my hopes up because it is, it could go either way. The next question comes from my man Sturm, who says, favourite Star Wars book and favourite non-Star Wars book. So for the Star Wars book, I honestly don't really know if I could choose a single book. If I had to pick a top 3, it would honestly be probably Light of the Jedi. That was honestly already one of the best books that I've ever read. I think Dark Disciple probably makes it in there, and then I think Master and Apprentice maybe takes that 3rd spot. Those are not really in any particular order because, like I said, I can't really choose one. And then there's like a ton of books that, are right on the edge. A lot of the Thrawn books and books like Tarkin and stuff, a lot of those are, really solid books. So I can't choose one, but they would probably be my top 3. As for favourite non-Star Wars book, there is a book about the AFL team that I follow, and it was just a really amazing book. What happened was essentially we were one of the worst teams in the league, and we have been since essentially I was born, or 20 years before that actually. And anyway, they pretty much got this guy in to be like a fly on the wall in, you know, the whole season. He was there the whole season, and he would just sit in, you know, in the change rooms and when they're training and in the meetings and stuff like that, and he would just sort of like report on what he was seeing, and he would interview some players and stuff. And anyway, we had a 37-year drought. We hadn't won a premiership in 37 years, and all of a sudden, the year that he actually was added to the team and, you know, was there to report on it all, we ended up winning our first premiership in those 37 years. So it was just an amazing book because they didn't know any of that was going to happen, and you can just kind of like see the magic of it all happening in the book, because as they get further and further towards the grand final, you know, there's so much excitement and stuff like that. So that is probably my favourite book that I've ever read. A lot of you guys will know I'm a die-hard Richmond Tigers supporter, so yeah, that is definitely my favourite book of all time. The next question comes from Star Wars Boy, who says, what was your favourite update during Battlefront 2's lifespan? That is a very tough question. There are probably two that come to mind straight away. The first one was the Dooku update, simply because it was, in my opinion, the best update. We got so much really good stuff, and not only the content we got, but just the like balancing and stuff that they did. They balanced a lot of heroes. I remember Finn, Phasma, and Kylo were all sort of buffed to that really, really good level. Dooku dropped with essentially no bugs. I think he had a few little issues here and there, but he was like really, really solid, and he was really fun to play. So that's the one that probably comes to mind as, in my opinion, that was the best update. But then, funnily enough, the Scarif update, which didn't really have a crazy amount of content or anything, that was probably one of my favourites as well, just because of the way that the community kind of like came together and, you know, said goodbye to the game. It was definitely pretty sad at the time, but I think looking back on that, it was pretty awesome to see like everyone was so sad about the state of the game and the fact that we were no longer getting any more content. And so, despite it being sad, it was also kind of like a really good thing as a whole community to experience. So, I think the Dooku update was definitely the one that I enjoyed the most, but I think the Scarif one is probably the one that I'll remember for the rest of my life, honestly. The next question comes from my man Brady, who says, what is the biggest gaming-related change of opinion you've had? And then with so many new Star Wars gaming/television projects on the horizon, is oversaturation an issue, or is more always better? For the first question, that is honestly maybe one of the toughest questions I've ever been asked on one of these Q&As. I generally am pretty stubborn. I don't change my opinion all that often. It takes quite a lot for me to change my opinion. So there's nothing that really stands out, but probably the main thing I can think of is my stance on microtransactions. I was obviously, you know, when Battlefront 2 launched, as was everyone in the whole gaming community, everyone was pretty mad about the whole, you know, pay to win type of stuff. And I still think pay to win is obviously not the way to go, but a lot of people were just mad in general with, you know, overall microtransactions, as in even cosmetics and stuff. And at the end of the day, that is actually probably a big part of the reason why Battlefront 2 ended support, because they weren't earning any income. So I do think that, you know, as much as it might suck if you can't afford it and stuff, microtransactions are one of the healthiest things for the longevity of a game, just because the developers can continue to earn money. And if we had, you know, a steady flow of awesome new cosmetics coming for Battlefront 2 and people were actually paying money for them, the game could have lasted a lot longer. If EA saw that it was still, you know, generating revenue, then I do think there's a chance that it might still be getting updates. So it's not really our fault for, you know, for crying about it, because at the end of the day, it was pay to win, or it was close to pay to win anyway. And so I think we all had the right to, you know, kick up a stink about it, but I do think that we maybe went a little bit too hard on it, to the point where they are now sort of scared to even bother with any microtransactions. And you look at a game like Squadrons, like that game could actually get a lot more content, but because there's no microtransactions or anything, there's just never going to be any more content. So I think that's my biggest change of opinion, is that, you know, MTX equals bad, because if it's pay to win, it is, but I think generally speaking, microtransactions are actually really, really vital to the longevity of a game. Now, as for the second question about the, you know, oversaturation and stuff, I do think it is a risk, but the only way I think it's a risk is if the content isn't very good. If we're getting 10 new shows and, you know, 7 of them kind of suck, then I do think that will cause a bit of oversaturation and, you know, give that franchise fatigue that people often talk about. But in saying that, I think if the content's good, I don't think you can ever have too much. Like if there's 10 really, really good Star Wars shows out at once, sure, it might be hard to keep track of them all and stuff like that, but I don't think it can possibly be a bad thing, because if you're personally, you know, not enjoying it, then just don't watch some. But for those who are enjoying it, they're getting an endless stream of content. So I think it really just comes down to how well it's done, and I think it just has to be of really high quality and also a good mix, so that, you know, it's not all shows shows like The Mandalorian, you get a few cartoons, you get a few, you know, light-hearted series and stuff like that, and then you maybe get a few more darker ones for the older audience. So I think it mostly just comes down to the actual content itself. The next question is from Jay Wintz, who says, what's your process for making videos? Now, this is actually a really good question because I don't think anyone actually sort of understands how much goes into making content. A lot of people probably assume like you play a game of Battlefront, you get a really good gameplay, and then you just sort of turn that into a video and upload it the next day, but it's actually quite the opposite. My process is that I'm actually always about 1 to 2 months ahead, so pretty much any video that you're watching, for example this one, I planned it about 2 months ago, and so the whole sort of process just starts with the idea. I plan it all out and I get it scheduled so that I know what's on the horizon. Once that happens, then it comes down to either getting gameplay or doing research or whatever the case may be for the specific video. Certain videos I can just kind of start, you know, something like a Q&A, this is unscripted, so I can just sort of like, you know, gather the questions and start making the video. But something like a hero guide, for example, I have to sort of play with that character a lot, get to know them, get all the footage that I need, and then from there, I essentially just script the video around the actual gameplay or, you know, the tips that I learned during that time. So the next thing that comes after the gameplay is then the script, like I said. Once I've scripted it, which is usually around a 3,000 word essay, so, you know, think of the stuff that you guys have to do at school. I'm doing that about 3 to 4 times per week minimum, probably writing around 12 to 15,000 words just for scripting every single week. Then from there, I obviously just record it, and then from that point, if I'm going to be the one editing it, I essentially just, you know, take all the commentary that I've recorded, edit the gameplay over the top and tie it all together, or I'll send it to Vic, who is helping me out with editing, and essentially he'll just take over from there, send it back to me, then I just upload it, make the thumbnail and schedule it. So like I said, there's a lot more work that goes into it, and it's not as simple as getting a nice bit of gameplay and then just uploading that with some commentary, although cough cough, there are a few channels out there who do that. But for me, I'm literally always about a month in advance, and pretty much every video that you're watching, I probably uploaded it about 2 weeks before you're actually watching it. So it is a fairly lengthy process. The next question comes from my man Jazza, who says, which Star Wars Disney TV series do you think will be the best or the worst, and which one are you most excited for? Now, the one that I think is going to be the best, personally I think that Kenobi is probably going to end up being like almost a guaranteed like really good series, just because it's directed by Deborah Chow. It's got Ewan McGregor, who we all know is like a really good actor, and he just plays Obi-Wan so well. And then we're also assumingly getting Tamara Morrison as either clones or, you know, someone, maybe even Boba, but I highly doubt that. And then we are also getting Hayden as Vader, so we're getting live action Vader, Ewan as Obi-Wan, who, like I said, he just nails that character every time, and a really good director. So I think that will probably be the best one, and it's also just like a story that I think a lot of people initially said they don't really care for, but I think now that, you know, we've heard about Vader and all that type of thing, I do think a lot of people are going to be very interested in it. As for which one am I most excited for, it's probably Kenobi as well, to be honest. I think just, you know, growing up with Hayden and Ewan as, you know, the 2 main characters of my Star Wars, which is the prequels, that's just going to be amazing to see them back on screen, as well as with Tamara Morrison. And I'm a big fan of Deborah Chow as well, so I think she's going to absolutely kill it. Other than that, I'd probably say the Book of Boba Fett, just because Boba is one of my favourite characters, and also Ahsoka, because just the chance that we're going to see Thrawn in live action is just going to be amazing. So those are probably the top 3 that I'd go for. Now, the very last question comes from Joseph, and he says, I know that this speculation about the whole Battlefront 3 tease and the EA devs was debunked, but despite this, do you still have hope for a Battlefront 3 in the future? Now, despite my opinion on it, if you watch my video, you'll know that I pretty much tried to say that like it's not coming anytime soon and don't get your hopes up. But despite that, I do have my hopes up, and I genuinely do think we will get a Battlefront 3 at some point in the future. I don't think it's going to be for at least 3 years if we do get it, but honestly, after the success of Battlefront 2, and obviously like it had a rocky launch and everything, but it sold like millions and millions of copies, it made so much money for EA, and then despite all the drama, it's like literally to this day still growing. It will not die. Like, they pretty much, you know, they ended support and stuff like that, and the game is just still growing. So they definitely know that. All of the developers and stuff have been tweeting out how awesome it is, and so they see the love for Battlefront 2. They see us crying for Battlefront 3. They definitely know, I can assure you of that. And so just with how, you know, 1, how big Star Wars is, 2, the fact that now other companies are going to be able to make their games. I think Battlefront 3 would probably outsell almost any other Star Wars game at this point. And then 3, just because it is the type of game that DICE generally make. I do think we will get one, but again, I'm not going to get my hopes up too much, and if we do get one, I genuinely don't think it's even possible for it to come until maybe 2023 at the absolute earliest, but I'll probably bet on 2024 if I had to. With that being said, I would much rather them take their time with it. If it doesn't come till 2025, I honestly don't care, because I just want it to be essentially the game that they've always promised. Battlefront 2 was amazing, but it had so many issues. And I think if they just really took the time with this one to make sure that it was, you know, the perfect Battlefront experience, then I would much prefer that rather than getting one next year, but it has the same, you know, the same issues as Battlefront 2. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I do still have high hopes that we will get one eventually. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this one. Like I said, I'm trying to keep these a little bit shorter, and even still, I've managed to make this nearly 20 minutes long. And so there's going to be less questions answered per month. But like I said, if you do have any more questions, then either jump into a live stream and just feel free to ask me in there, or if I didn't answer your question, then just feel free to ask me the same question next month, because there's always going to be times when there's not as many questions or whatever. So yeah, if you do really want your questions answered, then be sure to just keep leaving them down in the comments every month. Or like I said, if you want to increase your chances, then be sure to join the Discord, which can be found with the link down in the description. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. If you did enjoy the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.